Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to show you how to turn this $5 Walmart fleece blanket into a beautiful customized blanket. Now I made this one for Evie, I'm going to make this one for Ace, and I think I'm going to go grab some more of these blankets and create a blanket for each of my kids to keep in their cars. I have a blanket that came from Pottery Barn. It was a gift to me years and years ago, and I have always kept that in the back of my car. It lays in the bottom of I have a SUV, so it lays in the back of the bottom and it just protects it. Also great for the bottom of a trunk, but always awesome to just have a blanket in your car for emergencies, especially in this day and age when we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. But I love this idea. Ace and Evie can use these for daycare, for nap time, and they'll know whose blanket is whose. And I love that idea. So super easy to do. I'm going to use the Chroma Luxe software and we're going to create our design. You can see on this one I used a beautiful nap blocker stitch, so I didn't have to use water soluble stabilizer on the top, or water soluble topper, I guess you would call it. And we're going to use the Ricoma EM1010 multi-needle to stitch it out. Let's get started. This is the software I'm using. This is Chroma Luxe. Chroma Inspire came with my EM1010. It's free with your EM1010 purchase. However, I have the upgraded version. I have Chroma Luxe, which is the highest tier. Each tier unlocks more features and more things that you can do with the software. The Chroma Luxe is the highest tier. It has the most amount of stitches. It has a lot of shortcuts to create things and a little bit easier. You can still do a lot of them in Chroma Inspire. You just have to kind of do it manually, where Chroma Luxe automates a lot of those features. But today what we're going to be doing is creating some text with a nap blocker, which is kind of some people call it a knockdown stitch, for the blankets that we're going to be doing. So in order to create our design, we're going to start with the text tool, which is over here in the left hand corner. And we're just going to click on that. And you can see when we click on that, our cursor turns into a letter A with what looks like a little asterisk or snowflake. So we're just going to click down on the canvas and that shows that we have the text tool selected. When we click down on the canvas, you can see this menu opens up over here. So the first thing I want to do is select the text that I want to use, the font that I want to use. In this window right here where the yellow words are, you can double click on this and this will open up all of the fonts that are included in the software already, or if you have Chroma Luxe, you can import fonts into this window. You can, with Chroma Inspire, you cannot import fonts like this. But all these yellow ones and the green ones, those all come with the software. But we're not going to be using these. I wanted to show you this really neat feature. So with the software, you can import any TrueType font. So that means any TrueType font that you have imported on your computer, Chroma will do its best to digitize it for you. And I think that's a really cool feature. So I'm going to click on TrueType font. And if I click right here, right above the TT, which is TrueType font, it shows you all of the TrueType fonts that I have on my computer. This is basically my font editor. All these fonts are in my computer. And I can use any of these and see how good of a job Chroma does at digitizing. So far, there's not been any that I've chosen that I wasn't happy with. But you can choose whichever one you want. I'm going to choose this one called Losing My Marbles. I really like this. I'm going to click OK. So I'm going to type Evie's name right up here in the text box right next to the preview window, right up here. And then I can change some options here. I can change the height, and I want this to be about 2.75 inches tall. And I can change the spacing. I can change the line spacing. There's only one line to her name, so I'm not going to change that. I can change the order in which it stitches out. I can go left to right, right to left, center right, left, center. However you want to do it, I'm just going to leave it left to right. This isn't for a hat or anything. We're just putting it on a flat blanket, so I don't really need it to go in any from center out. Next, we go down the other side and I can change it to align center. I can align left or right. We're just going to leave it at center, and I can change the type. So just for a normal straight name, I'm just going to leave it at normal. I'll show you what these other options look like in just a moment. So we're going to click apply. And there you can see Evie's name, and Chroma has digitized that font for me. And I think that is the coolest thing ever. Now, just to go back and show you really quickly these other options, if I were to have chosen a circle, you can see what that does. If I would chose spiral, I can choose, it's not going to do anything for monogram because I've got 4 letters chosen there. I can choose path, so it'll type it on a path, and then you can manipulate that path any way you want. And I can make it go vertical. But we're just going to stick with normal for this video. So we're going to click apply. All right. So you'll notice here on the grid, here is the 0 line, and over here is the 0 line right there. So I'm going to click on the spacebar and hold it down and just move my grid down. So I'm looking at the 0 line right here and the 0 line right here. That's the center of my hoop. So I'm going to grab this name right here and put it right in the center of the hoop. Move that a little bit more. All right, so if I want to see my hoop, I am going to click right up here in the menu bar, click hoop, and I have set up a hoop. But if you haven't set up a hoop, you can click on new, and I'm going to do my mighty hoop, which is 7.9 inches by 7.9 inches. I'm going to click, you can name it, so I'll call this my 7.9 mighty hoop. Click OK. And now I should be able to find that. It's right here, 7.9 mighty hoop, and we'll click apply. And there you can see it inside your hoop. So we'll just click OK. So now we can kind of look at this up close and see if there's anything we want to change. You can click on these tabs up here, and there are all kinds of options that you can change. And again, I have Chroma Luxe, so the higher the tier you have of the software, the more options you're going to have. So if you click this 3D box up here, it will give you a 3D rendering of what the stitches actually look like. And that's very helpful sometimes as you're trying to decide if your density is thick enough or needs to be thickened up or maybe lessened. So you can look here and change your density. I think that looks pretty good. I might do 0.35. Let's see what that looks like. And click apply. I like how that looks. So if you check out these other tabs, there are other things you can change. This is just a standard satin stitch, but you could change it to a bean stitch, etc. Again, the higher the tier you have, the more options you're going to have under these particular menus. This button right here is your underlay. You can change the underlay. Right now it is a zigzag underlay, but I could change it to a center line underlay if I wanted, or a contour. I'm just going to leave it at the one that it's chosen. And again, you can change your push and pull compensation. That's a little bit more advanced. We're not going to get into that right now. And again, there's just a bunch of things you can change up here, and the higher the level of software you have, the more options you're going to have here. The one thing I do want to change in this menu right here is I want to make sure that it trims between each character. I don't want any jump stitches, so I can choose trim. I can tell it to trim between words, between lines, between capitals. I can just say if it's longer than 2.0 millimeters, I want you to trim it, or I could put whatever width I wanted to in there. But I'm just going to tell it to trim between each character, and we're going to click apply. So with Evie's name, I want to do what's called a nap blocker. Some people refer to this as a knockdown stitch. Now, this is a really nice feature to have. It will basically put down a layer of stitches to knock down the nap of the blanket, and then it will stitch the name on top. So in order to do that, I'm going to click on the selection tool right here, which is the black arrow in the top left. And then I'm going to right click on the name and I'm going to go to Utility and I'm going to click Create Nap Blocker. All right, so this lets me create a nap blocker. I can choose the distance here. I can make this a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. I can leave it as is. Let's just leave it as is and click OK, and I want you to see what it does. You can see it has created a stitch that's going to go behind her name. That's going to knock down all of the nap of the blanket. This is really good to use on a towel or like a minky blanket, anything that's kind of got a nap to it or a fuzz or a fur. This is going to knock that down. So I like how that looks. Now I'm going to work on my colors. I don't want Evie's name and the nap blocker to be the same color. So I'm going to click on over here in my layers panel, this first layer, the complex fill. This is the nap blocker. And if you're not sure, go over here, and if you hover over the little icon, you can see a preview of what it is. So with that selected, I'm going to go down here to my color chart. So her blanket is gray with peach accents. So I want the nap blocker. Usually it's nice to make your nap blocker about the same color as your background, as your fabric. So I'm going to make that the gray color. Now, if I look down in here at the bottom, I don't see the gray color in my color selection, but I can add it. I can just click over here on the plus, and it will add a color. If I click on that color, I can change it to gray. So I'm going to add the gray and click OK. And then while that layer is selected, you can see this green turn to gray. I'm just going to right click on this little gray color and you can see the nap turn to gray. Now I want her name to be in white. So I'm going to click on the text. And again, if you're not sure, just hover over the little icon and it'll tell you this is your text layer. So I'm going to click on the text and I'm going to go down here to color 19, which looks like a white, and I'm going to right click. And now her name's going to stitch out in white. So that looks really good to me. I'm going to go up here to the stitch simulator, which is right here. It's called slow redraw. And if you click on that, it will show you exactly how this is going to stitch out. And I just want to make sure that nothing weird's going to happen. It looks good. And then it's going to stitch her name left to right. That looks really good. So that's all we need. I'm going to save this to the flash drive. And in order to do that, I'm just going to go File, Save As. And you always want to save your design as an RDE file if you want to be able to go back and change it again. So I'm going to put Evie and I'm going to put blanket just so that I know which one this was for. And you can choose where you're going to save it. I'm going to save it to the desktop and click Save. And then you can go back and click File, Save As. And I will change this to a DST file. And I can save that to my flash drive. So that's how you create your stitch file. Let's go over to the machine and I'm going to stitch this out and let you see how this works out. One other thing I always do before I go to the machine is click on this print preview button up here. It's the one that looks like a printer. And this will give you an actual printout of the design that is true to size. It's the actual size that it'll print out. It also gives you the stitch steps. So I always print this out and use this as a template. So in the Chroma software, I printed my design. So I'm just going to cut this out. And this is just going to give me a better visual of what the design looks like and how big it is. So I have the blanket here. And I want to put her name like right on a corner. and you can decide how you want it. I'm gonna get the blanket out of my way a little bit. And what I find easiest to do is to center this on your mat so that the point is sort of straight. And that gives you something that you can use a ruler and measure to get that center mark. Exactly where you want it to make sure that it is straight. I might bring it down a little bit. Once you have that in place, you can either pin or tape it into place. So use pins and pin this right where it is. I know it's not going to move. I'm just going to check. It's about 3 inches to the edge. And about 3 inches to the edge. That looks good to me. So again, if you want to use tape, however you want to do it. Just secure your design into place. I just find this easier than trying to mark it and then line everything up and hope that it fits the way you think it's going to. So now we're ready to hoop the blanket. So I have the Mighty Hoop. You want to put this tab towards you, and I am going to just put a piece of tearaway over the top. And then you want to add your design. Now we've pinned it in place. So I'm trying to shoot for the center-ish of the hoop. It doesn't have to be exact. You just want to make sure that it's going to fit in there and be far enough away from the edges that you're not going to hit the sides. So I'm just feeling here, this is the edge and this is the edge. And we've got plenty of room at the top and plenty of room at the bottom. It doesn't have to be exactly center in there. We can take care of that at the machine. So once I've got it in there, and I am going to make the hoop straight with the grid on my mat, and then I'm going to line this up, and it helps if you have a ruler, and I can kind of use this grid line on my mat, make my ruler straight, and make sure that that horizontal line going through the design is straight. So I know that's straight right where it is. Double check that I didn't move the hoop. The hoop's still straight. So the nice thing about the Mighty Hoop is that you can simply put this down and it's going to be clipped into place. You want to make sure that this tab is this way. This is the part of the machine that goes towards me. The bulk of the blanket is towards me, and there it clipped into place for me. I didn't even have to think about it. So like I said, those magnets are really strong. You need to be very careful if you get it anywhere near the frame. It is going to snap into place just like it did. So let's take this over to the machine and see what we need to do over there. So we are over here at the machine, and I am putting the Mighty Hoop on. And I am going to take the bulk of this blanket and throw it underneath. I'm also going to make sure that the sides are not going to get caught on anything just by clipping them in the front, just like this. And nothing's going to fall underneath the machine. So let's grab our design. So we're going to unlock the machine, click OK. We're going to go to File, Flash Drive. We're going to find our design, which is this one called Evie Blanket. And we're going to tell it, take it from the flash drive, put it on the machine by clicking this button. Now it's on the machine, so we're going to go to the machine and find the same file. It'll be the last one. And we'll click OK. Perfect. Now we need to tell it which hoop we're using, so we're going to go to Design Set. And we're going to choose hoops, and I'm just going to choose other because I'm using the Mighty Hoop, and that's not one of my options. I could set one of these up for the Mighty Hoop, but I just choose other. And we're going to click the F rotation because Evie's going in the up and down, left to right direction. And as you can see over here, we need it to be upside down. So we're going to click on the F, and we're going to find the F that's upside down, which is this one right here. And then we're going to click OK. And it's going to rotate our design upside down. Now you can't see it on the screen very well yet because it doesn't know which hoop we have. So that's fine. We're just going to click escape. Now we're going to go to our colors. The first color is going to be the knockdown stitch, and I'm going to do that in gray. So we're going to do that in 2. And the next color is going to be our peach color, and we're going to do that in 6. And we're going to click OK. One more thing, when you're in the color window, you can switch this button right here, and I'm just going to leave it in, you have AA, which is automatic, which means it's just going to go from one color to the next without stopping. If you put it on AM, it's going to go from one color, stop, go to the next color, stop, and then there's manual. I don't ever use that one, so I'm going to leave it on automatic. I don't need it to stop in between. So we're going to click OK again. All right, so now we need to center it up in our design. So in order to do that, I'm going to click on the needles. I'm going to click on number 1. And now I'm going to try to get needle number 1 right in the center of this crosshair on my design. So in order to do that, I'm going to click escape. I'm going to use my arrow keys, and these arrows represent which way the hoop itself is going to move. So I need the hoop to move that direction to get it under needle number 1. So I'm going to move it that direction. And then I need the hoop to move back to get it under needle number 1. And so I can pull this down and see how close I am to that crosshair. So I need to move it slightly that way, a little bit further back. Right there. So we are centered. So the next thing I'm going to do is trace the design just to make sure I'm not going to hit the sides. I know we're good on the top and the bottom. So we're going to lock up the machine, click OK, and then we're going to use this button to trace. So we are good. I can tell that foot is not going to hit either of the sides. So at this point, we can take our pins out. We can take our design out. Since we used the nap blocker, we don't need to put a topper on there. But if you weren't using the nap blocker, you would put some water-soluble stabilizer on the top. You could hoop that or just lay it on the top. Either way, it should work fine. So we're just going to go ahead and hit start.
Easy as pie, lemon, apple or cherry. Loving you is so very sweet, sweet, sweet. How can it be such a piece of cake? And your smile is the icing. Loving you is a party. It's sweet, sweet, sweet. How can it be? And you make my candy coated heart melt. When you take my hand and I am under your spell. Baby, I crave your affection. When I stepped in sweet confection, honey, you're my sugar. I'm pleased as punch, whether spiked or sparkling. You make me tipsy and bubbly. If you're dessert, I want the last course first. Oh, how I love all your candy kisses, and I'm addicted. Oh, 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 I can't just...
I hope you enjoyed this video on how to turn a $5 Walmart blanket into a super personalized sellable item using Chroma Luxe software and your embroidery machine. Just want to remind you, the Ricoma EM1010 is still on special through the end of November 2020. If you're interested in that, I'll have a link in the description below the video. And it comes with the Chroma software. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, share, click that bell so that you're notified every time there is a new video. And here are some other videos you might be interested in. Thanks so much for watching. Never stop making.
My sugar. Baby, I crave your affection. When I stepped in sweet confection, I need your my sugar.